Pretty often, I'll actually listen to the soundtrack of a game before even playing it. In the case of Hollow Knight, I listened to the soundtrack in this manner so often that I actually knew it by heart. But you see, Hollow Knight and I have had kind of a complicated relationship in regards to the music. When it released, I constantly heard about how great the music is and how it was a game changer. And my initial thought was, wow, this music is great. And that was it. I listened to the soundtrack a lot, mind you, but I didn't have my jaw on the floor like I did for Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, Nier, or many of the other hits of that year. And I was expecting to. I actually thought I was missing something with the soundtrack, that there was some part that I just must be misunderstanding. I had to be missing something, right? Well, keep in mind that my first mistake here was actually knowing the music so well before I even played the game. And as I pondered what I might be missing here, I came to the conclusion that the music succeeds greatly on three main aspects, namely setting a mood, leitmotifs, or the use of recognizable themes, and what instruments are chosen or how the orchestration is. These three things are all top of the line, and honestly because of this, I think that this makes the Hollow Knight soundtrack one of the modern greats. The skill that Christopher Larkin shows off here honestly in my mind meets or surpasses many of the quote top game composers today. So really, if these points are all true and they don't need any further explanation, what was I missing? So, like a fool, I actually listened to this music for like 6 months before finally opening up my Steam backlog and playing Hollow Knight. And when I played it, I instantly fell in love with the art, the characters, the lore, and the environments. And I also noticed that the music was a completely different experience. It changed entirely. But why did it change? All the music I more or less at this point had memorized. All I was adding was the gameplay and visuals. And yes, these do enhance music. That's the point of game music, I know. But I felt like this went deeper than that. Finally, when I got to Green Path after a short amount of time, I noticed what made the music pop so much now. And that was the ambience, the background noise, the soundscape. It was incredible. Walking around Green Path, which actually has one of my favorite tracks in the game, it just felt so alive. The music took on a new character, and it was brought to new levels just from the background noise. This discovery led to my personal conclusion that the ambience in Hollow Knight in many ways might actually be better than the music, and if it's not better, then it's at least on par. And put with the music, it does create an unforgettable experience. I fully believe that to truly experience and understand this soundtrack, you can't have the music without the ambience. And so, when I thought about this immediately took me back to 2008 when I was an active member on the GameFAQs message boards. I remember reading a post that said everyone had to go listen to the specific remixed Phoenix Wright track with the website Rainy Mood in the background. This was the first time that I realized that ambient sounds we're familiar with can actually enhance our enjoyment of music. Just for fun, I'm going to drop this combo in the description of the video so you can hear what my 18-year-old self went through then. And so this experience, or the addition of purposeful background noise, that's what was happening in Hollow Knight right in front of me. The quiet animal sounds and the forest drone of Green Path accented the music, which then in turn added to the environment and the visuals on the screen. As I went to the other areas, I still noticed this expertly crafted ambience. It allowed the music to take on new life. The ambience was part of the soundtrack. I went back to check the soundtrack again without the ambience, and it was empty again. It was good, but it was empty. It felt incomplete. The experience that pushed this idea harder for me was the City of Tears. This was an area that honestly felt surreal when I first entered it in the game. The rain, piano, and the soft vocals made this city feel more special to me than it would have otherwise. It made my appreciation for both the game and Christopher Larkin's music just grow so much more. So what's happening here? What made the ambience so focal for me? And what made the music feel like it was missing something without it? Personally interpreting this, I think that the tracks purposefully don't include a focal point for our subconscious to focus on. So let's talk about something called Petal Orchestration. Oftentimes when you orchestrate music, you include lines in music that aren't meant to be heard, but rather be felt and just subconsciously understood. It fills the gaps of the other parts to provide a through line to make things feel more consistent. This role in the orchestra often falls to the alto voices such as violas, horns, or clarinets, if they're in the lower register. And they're often just held out notes, which helps us to not notice them. We call this technique pedal orchestration. In rock music, the instrument most associated with this is the bass guitar. If the bass drops out, you hear it, you notice it. But if it's playing from the beginning, you often don't even notice that it's playing. Your attention is drawn to the vocals or the higher-pitched instruments. This is to fill in the gaps to provide a more even balance or listening experience. If you listen to the music in Green Path alone, or most of the other tracks, you'll notice that there really isn't this type of orchestration, notes that are in the harmony not being heard. Sometimes there's more active parts that do serve this purpose, like a quickly moving harp, but our conscious can still easily be drawn there, so it's not really true pedal orchestration in my mind. And other times, synths do take the role up of pedal orchestration, but not in the traditional, string quartet type thing that he often has going on in this soundtrack. But more often than not, you'll mostly get melody, counter-melody, rhythm, and a more active part. These often aren't really used to glue orchestration together with the pedal. And that's okay, you don't need one, you just do find them a lot. And so I realized that this is where the ambience comes in. The ambience is the pedal orchestration. It fills in the gaps. The music in Hollow Knight does an excellent job at allowing the music to set the mood for everything, and it just feels like so much love and care went into crafting these ambiences as well. You can check this yourself. People have uploaded the soundtrack along with the ambiences all over YouTube. People other than myself consider the ambience essential as well. So out of all the other areas, let's go to Deep Nest. It's a cave-like area that you could probably liken to real-world deep oceans with very alien-looking creatures. They don't really conform to the enemy types that you've seen up to this point. There's still life here, but it's weird. It's not normal. Here, there really isn't much music. It mainly is just ambience, nothing else. I guess there's some synth sounds occasionally, but it's an air of horror. You can hear insects scratching around you, and really the enemy sounds just add to the ambience. There's a tiny semblance of music, I suppose, just a bit, not much. But then there's also the Abyss. The Abyss is where everything fully clicked for me. Here you've really only got ambience, no sounds, no creatures, zero music, and the only sounds come from the very, very, very few enemies that you encounter. You've got a couple swelling drones in the background as that's part of the ambience, and that's about it. There's virtually no life in the visuals, the music, or even the sound. It's just dead. This makes me think in a symbolic direction, and that the presence of music in Hollow Knight and in turn the leitmotifs are meant to symbolize life. And this music lives on top of the ambience of these areas. And oddly enough, the boss fights actually help to enforce this point. During boss fights, the ambience is either brought way down or sometimes cut out. And if you listen to the boss fight music by itself, you know what's present? Some kind of pedal orchestration. That subconscious glue that gives your brain a sense of cohesion musically. This fact makes me so certain that the ambience is part of the music in Hollow Knight. It's just not right. My mind is blown that they didn't include the music along with the ambience on the CD as well. But so, what are we getting at here? Composers, what can we do with this information? Try this. If you really want to nail a musical feel of a certain location in a game, try ambience. Create an ambience first. Write music while listening to that ambience. Ask yourself, what instruments would you hear naturally in this environment? How would the melodies sound? Find a tempo that fits the ambience, maybe improvise melodies while listening to it. Really sit with it and understand what makes the ambience what it is. I had tried this on a soundtrack I wrote last year, and the music became very area appropriate, I found, and I felt it to be some of the most creative music I've written to date. Hollow Knight gave me the idea to try this, and it made me start thinking about ambience around me much more often. And now I love to critically listen to what I can take away from the natural sounds in my environment at any given one time. Truthfully, I don't know if it was Christopher Larkin's intention to do all of this with ambience or not, but regardless, we can still take these ideas and add them to our toolkit as not only composers, but as listeners too, to help better understand the game music around us. Hollow Knight is such an incredible game, and after delaying it for so long, when I finally played it, I really played it. It was actually the first game that I wanted to complete in quite a long time, and while I decided that I wouldn't finish the 5th Pantheon because oh my god it's hard, I ate up everything I possibly could about this game, and I can't wait for the sequel. And one of the things that I'm excited about the most for that one? To see how the music and the ambience interacts all over again. And with that, that's all I've got for the day. Thank you so much, everybody. I really do appreciate you checking out this video. If you want to get in touch, you can follow me on Twitter at Kylydian. And if you're a game composer and you want to meet other game composers and get more involved and get advice, feel free to check out the Discord server of game composers that I helped to organize called Beats to Play Games To. The link for that is right in the description below. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a great day.